melodic heavy metal. Playing it heavier, louder, raunchier, faster. 99.1 CJAM. This is the Signals of Intuition. 99.1 CJAM-FM, you're listening to the Signals of Intuition, 2 hours of melodic hard rock and heavy metal coming your way. That was Tesla's Dave Rude right there from his brand new solo album, The Key. That song was Yours to Hold. Tonight on the show, we've got Dave. He's going to be sticking around for the first part of the show, so let's get him on the line right now. Hey, Dave.
What's happening, Brandon?
Hey, not too much. How you doing?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing all right. So would you mind if we start this talking about the beginning of your career and sort of how you got started and that kind of thing, and then we'll work our way into your new record?
Yeah, of course. That sounds great.
Okay, cool. So first, what can you tell me about your early life? You know, where'd you grow up? How'd you get into music? That kind of thing.
Sure. I grew up in California, in the Bay Area, in Albany, a little town, basically Berkeley. I just wanted to be a musician and a guitar player since before I could talk. And I used to play air guitar when I was like 2, and just rock out and listen to all the stuff my parents listened to and sang and all that. And then when I was 9, started taking guitar lessons. And man, I never looked back. I took lessons until I was out of high school with a couple different teachers. So it just sort of, I don't know, I guess it grew from there. But kind of was all I ever wanted to do and cared about, really. So I just played in bands and stuff. I was kind of a late bloomer with that. I really didn't start playing in bands until probably after high school, seriously. Yeah.
So what were some of your earlier influences and favorite bands growing up? Like, who influenced you as a guitar player?
Guns N' Roses was probably my biggest. They were really the ones that got me into hard rock and also into playing guitar. Because I was already playing guitar for a few years by then, but I was more of a singer who also played guitar. I wanted to play solos and all that stuff, but I wasn't trying to be a guitarist. I was trying to be a singer. Mm-hmm. But when I got Appetite for Destruction, I just got really into guitar playing, and Slash became, a huge influence. And then from that, it spiraled out into, all the other hard rock bands, Motley Crue and Aerosmith, and, a lot of the 80s bands that were popular back then, Skid Row and Warrant and Poison and all that stuff, which was all super guitar-centric, so it really definitely fed the fire. And all that classic stuff. And then that, branched out into basically all the classic rock bands. And Steve Ray Vaughan, I love him.
Mm-hmm. So what bands were you in before you got the call to join Tesla?
I was just in local bands around here, nothing major. Yeah, just club bands. It's bands that were trying to make it and stuff, but nobody that ever did anything. Mm-hmm. And then I started doing my solo projects, and that's how I actually ended up getting in Tesla anyways. And I had only been doing that for about 6 months before I got...
Okay, so since we're kind of talking about now, how did you end up getting the call to join Tesla?
Well, I started Dave Rude Band as an actual solo thing where it was just no permanent members and just kind of hiring people or calling people to do gigs and shows, and put up a quick demo that I did like 8 hours one day, basically live in the studio. Really rough, and I just put it up on the MySpace, which was also really rough, But back in 2006, MySpace was gigantic. Mm-hmm. Basically, just that was what I was trying to do, was just kind of get my band off the ground. And by accident, Frank Hannon from Tesla happened to find my MySpace profile on somebody else's top friends that apparently was a mutual friend that I didn't know about, and it just totally out of the blue. And he clicked on it because picture looked like a rock dude, and then he liked the songs and he liked the other pictures, and he sent me an email on MySpace, and I got it when I got home from work that day, and kind of all came out from that. But what he originally contacted me for was to go out and play guitar in his solo band for Frank Hannon Band. He wanted a second guitar player for a tour that was coming up, and I was really excited because I loved his playing and had never been on a longer tour before, so I was I was stoked. And then, when I went up to jam with him, he said, "Oh, well, actually, I'm training someone for Tesla." And I was like, "Whoa, okay, that's pretty crazy." And that's kind of how it all happened.
That's unreal.
It is. It really was.
So like, what's it like going from playing with smaller bands and all of a sudden, a couple months later, you're on a major tour and that kind of thing? What was that experience like?
I mean, very surreal. It was definitely a head trip. But it was fantastic. I mean, I was a huge Tesla fan. I grew up listening to them. They were one of those first bands that I got into. And after the Guns N' Roses floodgates opened, within a year I was into Tesla too. So I was a big fan. So there was that aspect of it. And then also, you all of a sudden you have a guitar tech and crew and a bus and you're out playing these huge venues and it's like 1,000 people is normal. It's like, whoa, okay. I'd never even played in front of 1,000. I think the biggest crowd I'd ever been in front of was 900, and that's because we were opening up for Loverboy.
Oh, wow.
So it was different. Just a different mentality. But the guys were all super cool and made me feel real welcome. And luckily, also the fans were fantastic from day one with the whole Tesla camp. So that made it a real positive and easy transition. And being this type of dude like I am, and a lot of people are who want to make it and work hard and try your whole life and sacrifice your whole life and are hoping for your break, then to all of a sudden get it in maybe a different way than you expected, but still to be getting a big door opening for your career, it's still also a thrill. And so it felt good too. It was kind of like I was prepared for it. It was just still, it's just sort of very surreal, but at the same time I was up for it and excited about it.
Yeah. And if I have this right, the first thing that you played on with the band was a series of cover albums, Reel to Reel 1 and 2. How involved were you with that record? Did you get to play a lot of guitar and choose some of the songs, or are you just kind of listed in name only?
No. I pretty much became a member of the band within the first 3 months.
So a little bit of touring and they said, okay, you're in for life kind of thing.
Essentially, yeah, kind of blood in, blood out. And, we started that summer tour, my first tour with Tesla in June 2006. And by the fall, we had started recording, or decided to start recording Reel to Reel, which we had already made plans while we were on tour. And during that summer tour, we were learning covers at soundcheck and throwing them in the set and trying them out, see which ones we liked and which ones the fans responded to and all that. It was cool. We kind of got to sort of bone up and figure out which ones were going to be good on the record. But then, only a little bit. We didn't play all of them. A lot of them we just figured out in the studio. So I chose some of the songs, and I played guitar on everything.
Do you remember which songs you picked?
God, it was so long ago. I think I picked Bad Reputation and maybe Space Truckin'.
Oh, nice.
Remember. It's kind of vague, but it was all kind of. It was pretty collaborative as far as what we picked. It wasn't like each guy came in with a list. Like our manager at the time, who no longer manages a band, he would bring in just stacks of burned CDs that he would make of all these songs that he thought we should cover, and kind of by decade. And we would listen to them, like, oh yeah, that'd be cool. And that mixed with everyone just saying, oh, hey, I've always wanted to do this Montrose song or whatever. And then we would basically try it out, see if it felt right for us and if it sounded like Tesla, because we didn't really change any of the songs. We would just sort of do us playing them. And, most of the time it worked, and we would just basically go in and record it live right then. Like, as soon as we learned it, we were already set up in the studio and just sort of hit record, and we did it all live in the studio, did it all on vintage gear, all recording straight to analog tape. It was definitely an old school thing, which is why it was called Reel to Reel.
Yeah, very cool. I didn't know that. It's really neat. And that's a totally different vibe than, almost anything you hear coming out on CD nowadays.
Absolutely. I think that's what also set it apart, because at that point, every band and their mother and their mother's brother was putting out a damn covers record, know? But I think ours is definitely in the top list of that, because not obviously I'm biased, but just sonically and just as far as keeping it true, you know what I mean? Like there was some good cover records, but a lot of people just did it because that's what everyone was doing. And I've heard a lot of them was like, that sucks. It's like, if you're gonna do a cover, do something cool with it. Like either change it totally or do it just the way it originally was, but with your sound.
Mm-hmm.
And, just such a great singer. He really put across all the lyrics so well. I just think our record sounds different also because it was so analog in a very digital world that it came across as one of the better cover records to me.
Mm-hmm. And then the following year, you guys did Forevermore. What can you tell me about the writing and recording of that record?
Yeah, that record, that was my first full original studio record, and we all got together and co-wrote that one together. We all brought in ideas, and so sometimes we bring in like a half song or a full song, and then sort of throw it to the rest of the band, and then we'd all tweak it around and make it fit. I don't think any full song anyone brought in ever ended up exactly the same. It would always get changed, or a part would get taken out, or a new one would be written or something. But we pretty much, all five of us in a room with our producer Terry Thomas, went over all the album. We just kind of blocked out a month and went in there every day and wrote. And again, we were in Brian's studio, his old studio that burned down, so we were set up, and we could write it and then record it right then, like 20 minutes later, get a good drum track, and then start adding stuff to it. So it's kind of, that was more new school.
Mm-hmm.
And that was all digital, and that was the way, most records are made. So it's kind of the other end of the spectrum from the year before, making reel to reel. But, there's upsides to that, and it sounds, big and new and huge and all that. So that was fun. But it also took a while because we were touring at the same time, so we'd have to take a break here and there and go on tour for a month and then come back. So it took a little bit longer than probably making a traditional record, but for the most part, we just blocked out a couple months and went in and made it, which was cool. It was nice to be able to do that.
Well, it's neat too, that kind of approach where you're sort of recording it as you're writing it, as opposed to the other way where you have everything written, everyone knows their parts, and then you just go in and bang it out.
Totally, man. That's the way I always thought it was supposed to be. Like reading them interviews and stuff when I was a kid, it's like the old school way of making it. It's like you wrote a bunch of the songs and went in and did it, or you just like rent out A&M studios in LA for like 2 months and write the record while you're in the studio and just spend millions of dollars and all this stuff. But it seems like nobody really makes records like that anymore. And so it's either like kind of like we do now, where you just sort of write it in the studio as you're going, but it's not like some huge studio. It's kind of like your own studio, so you can take all your time, Or if it is a nicer studio, it's kind of like the songs are already worked out, and you just sort of go in and get the take and leave. Mm-hmm. It's just funny, how recording has changed so much.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Will we hear a new album from Tesla in the future?
Yeah, definitely. We're already working on a new album right now. We recorded a song called Taste My Pain, which we're going to release as a single this summer. We've already been playing it live, and again, another new technique. We just went in, recorded it, we wrote it, and kind of went in 1-2 days, recorded at Brian's new studio, and now it's done. And we'll probably keep doing a couple sessions like that until we end up with a full album, as opposed to blocking out a bunch of time this time. But yeah, I'm expecting early next year we'll have a brand new original Tesla record.
Cool.
We're already writing. We've been jamming on ideas with soundcheck and in dressing rooms and all that. So we're all really pumped to write a brand new record, and the new stuff already sounds killer.
Cool. Do you have any idea what sort of musical direction the album will take? Like, will it be sort of a classic metal vein like Hang Tough or Modern Day Cowboy, or will it have more of a modern flavor like Forevermore, or maybe even be like kind of acoustic?
I would imagine sort of a mixture of all of that. Just, it's hard to say. It'll always sound like Tesla, that's for sure. It's hard to say because, the record hasn't been obviously written yet, but just from the stuff we've been jamming on and the half riffs and ideas, and then the one new song, Taste My Pain, it's probably going to be in the more heavy rocking direction, probably less ballads, probably less acoustic stuff. Not zero, but just less than usual, just because we're all kind of in that mindset. We're all really like, man, let's fucking write a really cool heavy rock record. Heavy in the Tesla sense, like heavy in the...
Yeah, you guys aren't going to turn into Metallica overnight.
Right, yeah. We're not going to make a Pantera record, but same way that Forevermore and Into the Now and Heaven's Trail and even some of the older stuff is real heavy. Well, I would imagine it's going to be a pretty heavy rock record with maybe 1 or 2 ballads.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but don't quote me on that because it's a year off.
Well, that's a hard thing too when you're writing it. It's unless you have a set mindset of exactly what you want it to be. Like most records are just whoever comes up with the ideas and then you put them together and that's what the record becomes, you know?
Right. Which is probably what it'll be. You know, like we don't ever have any grand design of we're going to make a record like this. But like I said, it's never been this way before where all five of us are like, man, this is cool. This heavy direction feels good. Let's do it. Which also is probably maybe subconsciously a reaction to all the acoustic touring we did last year, which was great and we loved it. We put out the Twisted Wires, you know, record with all that acoustic stuff, and we really enjoy doing acoustic stuff. And we even have a little short mini acoustic set in the middle of our shows these days, which is really fun. But it's different than the big live attack of, you know, stacks of amps and distortion. So who knows? Maybe that's what it is. Maybe we want to get more rocking out of our system after all the quiet stuff on the road, sitting on stools all year last year.
Oh, I bet. Do you guys think you'll have any tour dates in Canada? For the last couple of years, I've been checking your itinerary, and I don't see any ever pop up.
I know. I hope so, but I can't say yet. You know, having a new record will probably increase those chances just because we do a lot more touring when we have a new album to promote.
Yeah.
So I've got my fingers crossed because I've never played in Canada, man. My only Canadian experience has been tripping around in Niagara Falls with a bunch of tourists.
Well, it's not true Canada anyways, because half the people there aren't even Canadian.
Oh, God, I don't think I met one Canadian in Niagara Falls. Except maybe the waiters.
Yeah, probably, eh? All right, Dave, right now we've got to go to a break, and then we'll come back and talk about your new solo record you've got out called The Key. Can I get you to pick 2 songs off of Forevermore, and then 2 songs off of Reel to Reel?
Yeah, let's do I Want to Live.
Okay.
Breaking Free.
Yep, and then off of Reel to Reel?
Bad Reputation and Ball of Confusion.
All right, well, let's kick everything off right here with Tesla with Bad Reputation, and we'll be back with more of Dave Rude.
You got a bad reputation.
99.1 CJAM-FM. There's 4 tracks from the newest Tesla records from Forevermore and Reel to Reel. Off of Forevermore, we had I Want to Live, Breaking Free before that, and then from Reel to Reel, we had Ball of Confusion and Bad Reputation. All 4 of those tracks featuring relatively new Tesla guitarist Dave Rude. He was with us the first part of the show, and he's going to hang out right now to talk about his brand new solo record called The Key. So Dave, before we dive into that, I'm curious, as a guitar player, what kind of gear are you using right now?
You know, Gibson and Epiphone guitars, and I've been playing crank amps, which unfortunately just went out of business, which sucks, but the amps are fantastic.
It's actually really funny. I was talking to Michael Wilton about a month ago, and he was telling me, he said, I think this is the amp for crank. He said, I'll bet you in the next month or 2, you're going to hear about them going under. Sure enough.
Yep. Yeah, we've been hearing, you know, rumors of this because we were friends with a lot of people at the company, so already had a pretty good idea. There was a couple possibilities of it getting saved and couple possibilities of it actually getting bought out by bigger, cooler companies that would have made it even better, but apparently all that didn't really happen. So yeah, the amps though are fantastic, and we were lucky to be endorsed with them for their last year. And
what are you playing from them? Are you playing a Krankenstein or a Revolution?
No, the 1980s, which I think is what Wilton plays too. It's kind of like their rock amp. I mean, I tried a couple of the metal ones and they're really good too. I was surprised how great they were for metal and even for a rock tone, but the amp that I play and that absolutely I'm head over heels in love with is the 1980, which it's their rock head and it's based on a modified JCM 800.
Oh,
and
cool. Okay,
oh man, it's so
gotta
great.
Check that out. Yeah,
if you can find one, because they'll probably become rarer and rarer now. But if you can, I'd buy it sight unseen. Like if you find one on Craigslist, it's a good price. Get it, because if you like that, Marshall tone. It's like that, but better. It's really wide and just killer. I love my crank amps and super excited about those, But then, I play like Gibsons and Epiphones through them. I got a really killer new Epiphone Explorer Pro, the silver one that's great. I put some Seymour Duncans, the Slash signature Alnico Pros in there, and coil tapped them so I can go single coil if I want to, and gives it a little bit more of a diverse tone. It's pretty cool, though. I think that's in the Explorer, and Les Paul's Explorers. I've got an SG that I like. I play on Love Song usually, and Epiphone's semi-hollow body guitar called an Alley Cat that they still make, I think, kind of like a rockabilly jazz type guitar.
Oh,
That
cool.
just sounds huge when you pump it through a big distorted amp, and I use that on Heaven's Trail and stuff. And as far as on the key on the new DRB record, I actually recorded on the song "The Key." I used my Epiphone Sheraton, which is another semi-hollow, kind of like a BB King style 335 guitar. And that guitar sounded huge. I kind of put it on as like an afterthought to maybe put in a little weird tone, sort of weird overdub sort of mix thing. And it ended up sounding so good. I think I re-recorded everything on that song, "The Key," and it's definitely the primary guitar you hear is this semi-hollow Sheraton, which gives it a really unique tone and it sounded just gigantic. It was pretty cool.
Oh, that's really neat. So I guess it's time to talk about your new solo record, which just came out recently, and as you mentioned, it's called The Key. What can you tell me about how this record came together?
Well, another sort of strange modern recording process of going down about 3 hours south of here. I live in Oakland, California, and we drive down to Fresno, which is about 3 hours in the middle of the state. And our producer, Mark Capitan, has a killer studio down there called American Made Studios, and so we'd go down for a weekend or so and, do 2 or 3 songs, basic tracks, which we were all recorded live in the room to give it a cool sort of live feel. It's kind of a mixture of the two. We recorded all digital and stuff and, used a click, but at the same time, we didn't want it to be totally perfect and processed. There's a lot of the newer stuff is, I don't think anyone's ever in the same room when they're recording. It's one guy at a time, and the other guys are out to lunch or checking their iPhones. So we were just recording all live in the studio, and then I'd go back and overdub other, guitars and do my vocals and all that, and out all the production ear candy stuff. But we would kind of do a couple songs at a time, and then maybe a month or two later go back down again. Sometimes I would just go myself and sing all weekend and get all the vocals done for a couple tracks. And, God, it probably took a year. Over the course of a year, we ended up with the songs, and, then finally I decided to put them out. The band's not really together anymore, but the songs were done, and I didn't want to just throw them away because I was really proud of them, and people had liked them, who had heard them, and at the shows they had liked them. So luckily, I ended up hooking up with Rat Pack Records, who are just amazing and have a bunch of really cool artists like George Lynch and John Corabi, Michael Wilton's solo stuff from Queensryche, Mike Stone.
Pamela Moore, too.
Pamela Moore, yep. And Mike Stone, who was in Queensryche for like 15 years and all that.
What's he up to nowadays?
Man, what isn't he up to? He's got a million other projects, but right now he's doing like a old school, like 40s jazz thing, like a trio, and apparently doing really well with that. And he's got an endorsement deal with D'Angelico guitars, those old big, hollow body jazz guitars, and wears like a zoot suit and a fedora. He looks pretty cool, man. It's pretty rocking.
That's gonna be great because he's all tatted up and everything, eh?
I know. It's like a little dichotomy. It's great. But yeah, his new stuff is fantastic, and just everyone on that label is really cool. And so I was so lucky to hook up with them. Actually, Mike Stone's the guy that introduced me to them. He said, "Hey, you should talk to these guys at Rat Pack. I think your thing would be perfect for them." So he gave him my number, and they called up, and we were gonna put out a new record. I wanted to just start a whole new project and maybe an instrumental record. That's kind of what I had been thinking about doing, and that was we had originally started talking about. But it was like in discussions, it was like, well, it came out that I already have this record recorded, so why don't we start with that and put it out, and then you can do a new project later on in the year, which is still the plan. But it was just nice to be able to give these songs a real release and do interviews with people like yourself and press and get it on the radio. It's been really cool.
Well, it's nice too because it sort of separates you from Tesla. Yeah. So this new record, it has sort of a modern rock meets classic rock vibe. Was any of the stuff ever intended for Tesla, or did you do this on the side completely? This is going to be my own thing.
It was all pretty much my own thing. There's, for the most part, when I write a riff, I can tell if it's Tesla or not. And plus, also, we weren't in writing mode at all with Tesla when I was, writing these songs. But no, these were all just basically written for this project. And I'd either write them at home and bring them into rehearsal with the guys, or we might just sort of jam on some riff that we came up with in the middle of, practice, and then go to a chord change and they'll follow, and then I'll go to another chord change and follow, and we had a little tape recorder in there so we wouldn't forget stuff, and then I'd write lyrics after the guys went home, and we'd have a song the next day, kind of stuff like that, and then
cool.
Refine them and all that. Yeah, it was cool. Actually, one Tesla connection to to the new Dave Rude Band record, though, is a song called On My Own Again, which actually has Troy Laketta from Tesla on drums.
Oh, really? He's on that track.
Yeah, yeah, it's a ballad, and because aside from Tesla and aside from my solo stuff, aside from everything, I have another thing that I do is I go to Nashville and I write country songs with writers out there, with other country writers, and try and pitch songs to country artists. And
oh wow!
yeah,
cool.
it's really fun. I love to do it, and I've been doing it for the last couple of years. And that song On My Own Again, I wrote in Nashville with a friend of mine called Doc Holliday out there, and we were trying to pitch it to like Keith Urban or some big country artist, because it's kind of crossover pop rock type of deal. And
yeah, I mean, to me, that song, even when I first heard it, I'm like, this song's a fiddle away from being a full-out country song,
Nice, yeah, exactly. We actually have a bluegrass version with all that stuff on there too, which is pretty cool. But I never thought about doing it myself, but I did it a couple times, just sort of solo acoustic at it's kind of solo acoustic shows, and people always flipped out on that one song, and I was like, wow, okay, I got a really strong reaction to it that I wasn't expecting. So I was like, well, maybe one day I'll do my own version of that. And when I was there, having written the song in Nashville, we went to Doc's studio, the guy that I wrote it with, and recorded the demo, and I sang my version of it. But I'm a rock singer, so it sounds like a rock thing. And when I came back home and I was trying to think of if I had any other tracks to make it a full 10-song album for DRB, I was like, dude, that song On My Own Again is killer. And Troy also lives in Nashville, so he had played drums on our demo for us just to help us out, and because he really liked the song.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what? It works as a rock song. It's just kind of a ballad, but kind of straddling that line of mainstream country and mainstream rock. So I just put it on the record, and I'm stoked. But it's really cool to have Troy on the album too.
Yeah, well, it's an extra name always helps for sure. And yeah, I have to agree, it is a really cool tune. I really dig that one.
Thank you.
You guys also did a really neat stripped down version of Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, which to me seems kind of like an odd choice for a raw rock album, but it seems to work. Why did you guys choose to cover it?
We just jammed on it one day at rehearsal, and I don't even know why. I think we just probably been hearing it in the van or something, and we're like, wow, this really works, and it totally did. It's such a great song, but it's a pop song. It's really layered with all sorts of instrumentation and background vocals and all this stuff. So when we played it as a trio, it was completely different. Even though we kept all the core of the song the same, it just naturally it's going to sound a lot different, and distortion guitars and all that. To me, it sounds like a heavy blues version of that song, which is kind of cool. Gives us a lot of room to stretch out. Like on the album version, there's bass and drum improv going on at the same time as the guitar improv, and it's all just sort of cacophonous, but it works, and that was one really fun song to do live, because every night it was totally different, and the solos I played on the record were different every take, and every night live the solos were different. So it gives it a hard rock feel, but all the while it's still got the same melody and lyrics of the Peter Gabriel song. So it's just to me it's a cool twist, because I think either you take the Tesla approach of doing a cover exactly the way it was, but just it sounds different because somebody else is playing it. Mm-hmm. You completely tweak it and do something totally different with it, which is what we did. So I like those two different approaches, and I think it came out well, and people always dig that song. So I'm stoked we did it.
Right, yeah, it's a really cool one, and it's funny too, because I just put the record on, listened to all 10 songs, and when that came on, obviously because it's different and being covered, you kind of go, something about this sounds familiar. Have I heard this on the radio, or where do I know this? And then by the time the chorus kicks in, you're like, okay, I know what the song is now.
Dude, everybody knows that song, right? It's just such a big hit. Like everyone and their mother knows Sledgehammer. It's great.
So what does the future hold for yourself? And obviously you mentioned Tesla, but more yourself. Like, are we going to get another solo record from you at some point?
Absolutely, yeah. I've been working on doing an instrumental guitar record, kind of like a Joe Satriani kind of vibe, but me, you know what I mean? Like a lot of the instrumental stuff out these days is really kind of, I don't know, it's just pretty uninteresting to me. There's not many melodies that you can remember or anything that really means much other than kind of really fast.
A lot of shredding scales and stuff.
Yeah, and I like fast, flashy guitar playing, but it has to be entrenched in a good song. All the great Vai and Satriani and anybody who's got a name that matters, to me has great songs. And then there's flashy guitar playing in that context, but it's not just the flashy guitar playing, which unfortunately to me, most of the newer stuff that I hear newer artists, I that's all I hear. So I'd like to kind of make my own sort of bluesy or rock version, but still, with some flashiness and just basically great melodies. But at the same time, I'm always writing stuff with lyrics, so it'll be a new project, new guys in the band, maybe with vocals, maybe not. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely writing it right now, and I'm hoping this year or maybe next year, early next year, to put it out through Rat Pack.
Oh, cool. Very cool. All right, Dave. Well, I know you've got to run, so I won't keep you. Before I let you go, though, can I get you to pick 4 tracks from the new solo record that we can play right now?
Sure, man. Yeah. Let's say Sledgehammer.
Okay.
On My Own Again, Afterlife, and The Key.
Okay, great. All right, Dave. Well, I want to thank you very much for taking the time out to do this interview. It's very much appreciated, and I'm really digging the new record.
No problem, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yep, no problem.
Thanks so much, Brandon. Take care.
All right, Dave. Take it easy, eh?
You too. Bye.
All right. Bye-bye. All right, so that was Dave Rude of Tesla right there, and we're going to finish the show off with a bunch of tunes that he's been involved with in Tesla and the Dave Rude Band, and right here we're going to kick everything off with the title track of his brand new solo record out on Rat Pack Records called The Key. Crank it up.